Робърт Смит, founder of the Foundation of the Protection of Community Orgs. Robert, it is your floor, and you will introduce yourself in more detail.
I'm 58 years old, an English businessman, and my businesses are in textiles. And in 1985, I started a factory in Istanbul, Turkey, making T-shirts for English storerooms. And in 1996, we moved our factory from the centre of Istanbul to a peripheral area, a new industrial zone on the edge of the city. And there were about 6 stray dogs being fed by the building workers at our factory. So I, as an animal lover, I have 2 dogs at home in England, of course instructed my employees to take these dogs to feed the dogs, to give them shelter, and to take dogs to a vet to be vaccinated and neutered. And it was very difficult at that time to find a vet in Istanbul who knew how to neuter dogs. And of course at that time I didn't know very much about it either. So eventually we found a vet, and they castrated the male dogs and spayed the female dogs. But they only half spayed the female dogs. They left in the ovaries because they did not know at that time, they were not able, they didn't have the skills to do a proper operation called ovariohysterectomy, I think. Anyway, they didn't remove the ovaries. I was always upset by seeing the bodies of dead dogs on Turkish roads. Usually around the edge of Istanbul and the roads to Ankara and other cities, you couldn't drive more than half a kilometre or a kilometre without seeing dead dogs. And to me, as an Englishman, this was upsetting, it was unacceptable. So then the thought occurred to me, wait a minute, if every factory owner, every restaurant owner, every petrol station owner, every concierge of a block of flats in Istanbul did what I did, took their local community dogs to the vet to have them vaccinated and neutered, there wouldn't be a loose dog problem any longer. So I contacted the one animal welfare organisation I could find in Istanbul, and I gave them some money, and I asked them to use this money to solve this loose dog problem. After a few months, I realised the money had been wasted, they didn't know what to do, they had no strategy. So then I decided, perhaps rather arrogantly, rather naively, rather ambitiously, to try to solve this problem in Istanbul myself. And of course I had no idea how difficult it would be. Istanbul has a population of 14 or 15 million people, and that's more, I think, than the whole of Bulgaria, more than the whole of Greece, more than the whole of Sweden. And the dog population is directly linked to the human population. Everywhere in the world, the number of dogs is a proportion of the human population. So I started to study the problem of dog ecology. I visited the World Health Organization in Geneva, I went to the World Society for the Protection of Animals, I read literature, I read this book, for example, called Dogs, Zoonoses and Public Health, about rabies mainly, problems, human health problems coming from dogs. And I started to approach the problem like a business project. Now, we will explain, Natalie and I will explain during our experiences, our failures, and believe me, we had a lot of failures, and also our successes. Since 1996-97, when I started in this animal welfare field, we don't want to talk about animal rights because that diverts us from the practical solution of the problem. We need to approach this loose dog problem like a military campaign. Now, if you're a Bulgarian or a NATO soldier in Iraq or Afghanistan in the middle of a military campaign, you don't have time to philosophize about what is right, what is wrong. Should a particular soldier be abandoned for the good of the overall campaign? And the subject of euthanasia of dogs is an impossible one. There is no right and no wrong in this. We all just have to agree to disagree and get on with the practical steps of a neuter and return campaign. So I would plead with all the animal lovers, like me, not to be diverted by this subject, not to get diverted into disputes about euthanasia, about particular dogs. We can afford that luxury in England, in Germany, Holland to debate whether a dog with a broken leg should be put to sleep or not. We cannot afford that luxury in Bulgaria, in Romania, in the underdeveloped countries of Central and Eastern Europe, and Central Asia, and India, etc. Now, I would like to just mention Natalie Klinger, who is my sort of de facto vice president of the Foundation for the Protection of Community Dogs. You know, I don't like titles and sort of hierarchies, so we don't sort of have any official titles. But Natalie has studied dog problems. She does not have a job in Holland because, unfortunately, she suffers from multiple sclerosis, so she's unable to work in a full-time job. That means that she has lots of time and energy for this animal welfare problem, and she knows a lot, she studied a lot, and she has a lot more time for it than I have, in fact, because obviously I have to run my businesses in order to earn money to fund my animal welfare activities. I'd also like to introduce Dr. Murat Bekhan, who's from Istanbul, and Murat also knows a lot about how to solve stray dog problems, and he's an expert, he's made himself into an expert on school education, which, as we will come to later, is a very important part of these projects. He's also a vet, he's also experienced in neutering, but probably surgery is not his strong point. It's education and managing a neuter and return project. So after Turkey, I opened a factory in Romania, and I also started managing and financing neuter and return projects in Romania. Now in Turkey, we can say we were half successful, because we, with the help of many other animal welfare organisations, persuaded the government to enact an animal welfare law which incorporates neuter and return, and it obliges municipalities to neuter and return dogs. Unfortunately, it does not oblige municipalities to work with NGOs, and there is no money provided to the municipalities to fund neuter and return. So therefore, the success in Turkey has been patchy. The situation in Istanbul is better than it was before this law was brought in. But progress is slow. The municipalities dump a lot of dogs in forests around the city. Other municipalities continue to poison and kill dogs in some parts of Turkey. and the progress is slow. So we can say we sort of half succeeded on paper in Turkey, but we have not succeeded really on the ground yet. In Romania, I built a new factory to make knitwear in a place called Câmpina, about 80 kilometres north of Bucharest. And I made a mutual return agreement, a gentleman's agreement with the municipality of Câmpina. But although I spent a lot of money and we neutered many thousands of dogs, I can't remember how many, I think 5,000 in Câmpina, which is a city or town of 50,000 people. Unfortunately, I could not make the municipality understand the logic of mutual return, and after 3 years they cancelled the contract because there were still too many dogs on the streets for their liking. And so my project in Câmpina was a failure and still is a failure, and the streets of Câmpina today are full of dogs and full of fertile dogs. And the municipality, the mayor, who unfortunately is not very intelligent, not very interested in animal welfare, he doesn't understand where all these dogs come from. He thinks that we are deliberately collecting dogs from Bucharest and places and dumping them in Câmpina, but of course that's not true. We have, however, succeeded in our other project in Oradea in western Romania. And I think Natalie can maybe show a map of Romania. Yeah, there it is. So you can see Bucharest down the bottom there, just north of Rusa in Bulgaria. You can see Prahovo, which is the cluster of projects we have north of Bucharest. And in the west, northwest of Romania, is Oradea, which is the orange dot closest to the Hungarian border. Just south of that, we have a clinic in Salonta, another town. East of that, we have a clinic in Alești. Southeast of that is a place called Beiuș. And then the northern dot there is a town called Margita. Now, Oradea is the capital of the province of Bihor. And Oradea has a population of 220,000 people. And the whole of Bihor has a population of about 650,000 people. Now, when we started our project in 2004 in Bihor, there were at least 4,200 unsupervised dogs on the streets. So that was a density of 70 unsupervised dogs per square kilometre. And that was a minimum number. By September 2006, we had reduced the dog density to about 20 dogs per square kilometre. And now, in 2010, we have reduced the number of unsupervised dogs to about 10 dogs per square kilometre. So we have reduced the unsupervised dog population to about 15% of the starting level. Now, we have to be careful about our definitions. The previous speakers spoke about stray dogs and owned dogs. But 90% of dogs in Bulgaria and Romania are not strictly stray dogs or owned dogs. In Western Europe, an owned dog lives in the house with its family and is 100%